Hello, John, and great having you on this AMA. First of all, before diving in the NDAO project and in the crypto space in general, could you maybe introduce yourself and in a few words about your project NDAO?
Sure. Well, my name's John Lester, and I'm currently the VP of Operations at Onero. Now, Onero is the engineering company that built the original NDAO code, the open source blockchain code, and I've been working at Onero for the past four years,
Mhm.
and I was there since the beginning of NDAO. When the blockchain was first turned on back in 2000, like 19, and it's been running. Been running live since then. So a little background about me, just so you know my perspective on things.
Yeah.
My background is actually um, in healthcare. I worked in
Hmm.
I did neurology research at Massachusetts General Hospital. I worked at Mass General for a long time in the research labs. And over the years, though, I got very interested in how computing technology could be used to connect people to each other and to create decentralized networks where people are sharing knowledge. So
Hmm.
I got very interested in medical education tools, and then this little thing called Bitcoin came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
And I got really fascinated with that because the idea of creating better money just
Hmm.
completely fascinated me. Decentralized money where people are in control of their own finances, where you're
Sure.
self-sovereign, right? One of the challenges I remember way back in my healthcare days is that, for example, like medical records, right? Your medical records, you have to trust hospitals with your medical
Mhm.
records. And it's not easy to get your medical records shared between hospitals. If you've ever had to do that, it's a nightmare. It's like trying to get your records from one hospital sent to another hospital. It's
Hmm.
not self-sovereign at all. It's totally centralized, and it's crazy
I
bad.
agree. Yeah.
Um, and so the idea of something, the idea of cryptocurrency solving the problem of of people having truly, self-sovereign money and not being, not having to trust third parties, not having to trust governments to not run the money printer, and print money
Sure.
whenever they need it. And so I got into Bitcoin just from that perspective, just as it fascinated me. And over the years, um, I realized too that Bitcoin is fantastic, but there are certain things that could be done that are even, in my opinion, more interesting around
Yeah.
digital assets, right? So the idea of a digital asset that's aware of market demand and can adjust its monetary policy over time, because Bitcoin is just constantly cranking out blocks, and there's good and bad to that. But the idea of something being adaptive has always fascinated me. The idea of anything that can adapt, any organism
Yeah.
that can adapt to its
Something dynamic.
surroundings.
Dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah, and that can be adaptive in a way that is transparent. There's nothing secretive happening. It's all very clear. This is what's happening. This is how it works. And um and also the idea of providing people with financial instruments um, that allow their assets to grow over time, right? If you look at the average person saving money in a bank account, it's sad how little interest they earn.
Yeah.
The returns the inflation is much higher than what you're earning. So the idea of things like yields and so forth, and how but also sustainable, like how could you create systems that generate yields for people doing things that allows them to keep their assets in a self-sovereign, safe way. They're
Hmm.
under control. They don't have to trust any third parties. That it can grow over time, and that is designed to be this adaptive, um, long-term store of value, so that there's still short-term volatility, but long-term it's designed to grow as market demand increases, and to mitigate downside volatility with disincentives.
Hmm.
Trying to disincentivize people to sell when people are panic selling, right? Um, so all of that is that's why I got so into the idea of NDAO, right? Because when I
Hmm.
met the people who were, the initial team of people who were designing it, I thought, wow, this is this is fantastic. So um, yeah, so that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years.
Nice, that's great. So that opens the question, a question to me. Like, I knew you were in the crypto space for many years now. According to you, what makes a good cryptocurrency project, and how NDAO respond to these problematics? Because we talk a lot about the trilemma of the blockchain, like decentralization, scalability, and security. So, what's your opinion about that? Can you have the three? Do you have to cut one of them? So, what's your opinion about that?
That's a really good question. Yeah. Um, well, one thing I think that I've learned over time, um, um, having been involved in, learning about Bitcoin early on, and then being involved in other open source cryptocurrency projects and things like, scaling challenges like Lightning Network around Bitcoin and
Hmm.
all the amazing stuff with DeFi with with Ethereum. Um, I think one of the well, I think you can have all of those great things, decentralized, and all that self sovereignty and all that
Hmm.
great stuff. But the trick is to always, for whatever any cryptocurrency project, is to always be adapting over time, right? Because when we initially designed NDAO, like 4 years ago, right, um, there was no DeFi really. There was, all of this
Yeah.
stuff. There was no staking yields or any of that stuff, right? And so, there was also no DAOs, right? Decentralized autonomous organizations, because DAOs
Mhm.
need DeFi to function, right? So, you know, so the idea is to always design something that as best you can with the knowledge that you have of the current state of the world, but then over time, make sure your team is also you have people who are helping to adapt the cryptocurrency over time to basically um, modify how the cryptocurrency works and take advantage of current trends,
Hmm.
macroeconomic and technological, to advance the cryptocurrency over time. So, for example, one good example would be with NDAO is well, also always open source. You have to always be open source, and as much as possible, design everything with self sovereignty in mind. So like if you
Hmm.
design a
Sure.
wallet for your cryptocurrency, make it a self sovereign wallet. Don't get people into the habit of keeping all of their crypto on exchanges, because that's not your crypto when it's on an exchange. It's the same way your money is not your money once it's in a bank.
Sure.
You're an unsecured creditor to the bank. The money is legally not even yours anymore. Um, so, one of the examples of when we designed NDAO in the early days, we wanted to have also a good, um, the idea of governance. How does governance work, right? That's a big question. And so we came up with this idea of
Hmm.
how do we make it decentralized? And okay, we designed this, the design of the Blockchain Policy Council, and then you have NDAO holders based on a weighted voting mechanism vote for specific people to represent the blockchain policy council representatives, right, to represent everybody, and that was decentralized. But then over the years, right, all of a sudden DAOs are a thing, right? Oh my goodness, we could actually create a completely decentralized organization where you don't have to have representational, voting, representational systems built up. You can actually have
Hmm.
individuals voting with their wallets, submitting proposals and things like that, and have it all of it happening on the blockchain, and all of it being um, transparent, right?
Hmm.
So what we did was we took the Blockchain Policy Council. This was one of the big projects we worked on last year, and we adapted it to become a DAO, right? So the Blockchain Policy Council was and always has been a decentralized solution to governance, but now it's even better because it takes advantage of all this DeFi technology. The current version of the NDAO wallet supports Wallet
Hmm.
Connect, which is the industry standard for Web3 authentication, right?
Yeah.
And and so using Wallet Connect in the NDAO wallet, you can submit proposals and vote on proposals in the Blockchain Policy Council DAO, right? And
Hmm.
so that idea of being adaptive. So it's interesting because the what you design, your cryptocurrency in my mind, what you design needs to be adaptive. Like NDAO is adaptive. It's an adaptive
Hmm.
currency, like I said before, like very well. But at the same time, the people who are contributing to the code, because again, NDAO is an open source project, anyone could submit code, but Onero, are the primary people who have been working on it from the beginning. But as the team developing the software, we have to think adaptively too. Like, okay, what can we do with NDAO to take advantage of new technologies that exist and to leverage things like DeFi and so forth and so on. So, long answer short, too late. I think
Yeah.
it's all about just being adaptive and transparent
Mhm.
throughout the whole process. What you build needs to be adaptive and transparent, and at the same time, the people who are working on it have to be adaptive too. You have to change your thinking, adjust your worldview as the world changes around you, and use that to your advantage, and to design and to tweak the cryptocurrency project that you're working on to be even better in the future.
Yeah, so the words that we have to keep in mind is adaptative. It's not like decentralized or scalable or anything. It's very adaptative because you can first be decentralized or not, and then change to be more decentralized or less, etc.
Yes.
So it's very adaptative. Okay, okay, thank you.
Yes. Exactly.
Um, yeah, I know. I see. Yeah. In the last AMA that I invited you guys to check it out, you said that FTX, um, that self-sovereignty, was at the center of the NDAO project. And as you said, making money better, like better finance. Could you explain? Because I think that's very important about NDAO and how NDAO responds to that with the wallet, with the key. I think it's good to talk more to inform people about this aspect of NDAO.
Sure. So, well, FTX is constantly in the news, and all of the organizations and institutions that relied on FTX are the ones that are now in a lot of pain and failing and
Yeah,
going
sure.
bankrupt and so forth. The key thing to remember, and I mentioned this in my other AMA, is that
Mm,
last year was the year of centralized failure in my mind. And we're going to
mm,
continue to see the echoes of that, the ripple effect of that throughout
yeah.
2023. It's a failure of centralization. It has nothing to do with crypto. The fact that it involved crypto trading, um, uh, exchanges like FTX, that information is incidental. It's really about centralized failure. What happened with FTX failing was that a bunch of people trusted a bunch of other people
Mhm,
who really no one should have been trusting them what they were doing, and there was no transparency into what these people were doing. And there was and there was a complete lack of, people just gave their assets to some other entity, right? So there's a
mhm,
loss of ownership as well. So all of that stuff has nothing to do with crypto. It all has to do with the typical way centralized financial systems fail, when there's a lack when there's no transparency into what's happening, when people are giving a lot of their stuff to this entity, a lot of their assets to an entity who doesn't have open books. There's no open ledger, right? It's like, yeah,
mhm,
we've got your Bitcoin or crypto, well, whatever, and all that stuff just came crashing down. And so, always at the core of NDAO's design, and this is way back from the very beginning when it was being designed, it was always like, okay, we're going to long-term store of value, sustainable yields, decentralized governance, a real world endowment to support the monetary policy. That's another big unique thing about NDAO that other cryptocurrencies don't have.
mhm,
But then self sovereignty was always at the core of it. It's like, it's just, and that was a lesson that I personally learned very strongly, very in the early days of crypto. Like, you look at Bitcoin, what did Bitcoin really get right? It really got right this idea of self sovereignty, like your keys, your crypto,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
That just so perfect. And so everything that NDAO has been designed from the very beginning, uh, all of the software has been designed with this idea of self sovereignty. So the wallet is a completely self sovereign wallet, and the idea that you can earn these yields without having to send your NDAO to some other address that somebody else has control over. You earn yields in the NDAO wallet just by holding it in your own account. Your
Mhm,
keys, your crypto, your yields are all right there. You're not having to, the way some of these other systems work with staking. You have to send your cryptocurrency to some other address, and somebody else controls that address. So from the very beginning, NDAO was, has always been and continues to uh, walk the walk, talk the talk and walk the walk, right? So our
mhm,
wallet is all about self sovereignty. With the integration of Wallet Connect in the wallet, it's even more powerful right? Because then if you have your own self-sovereign wallet with your keys, your crypto, and now you have Web3 connectivity, so you can authenticate, you can prove to you can prove to anyone on the web that has a Web3 enabled website, with support for the latest version of Wallet Connect, and that is focused on the NDAO blockchain. You can prove to that website, like, yes, I have this NDAO in my wallet. Prove it. I can prove it. Did I have to
Yeah.
trust anyone else to do that proof? No, I didn't have
Yeah.
to send my NDAO anywhere. I just proved it by signing a transaction in my wallet using Wallet Connect, and then doing that, sending that signed message to the website. So, like, all the stuff that happened with FTX, it's horrible. It's very sad, but you also, a lot of these people who lost all of their assets were trusting FTX. Why? Because number one, FTX just would make it easy to buy stuff and then just leave it on
Hmm.
their exchange. And two, they were trusting FTX because FTX was saying, like, hey, if you keep your crypto on FTX, we will give you yields for that. And people are like, oh, okay, my crypto is growing on FTX. It's like, guess what? It's not even your crypto, and FTX is not being very transparent about how it's growing. So
Hmm.
it could just be numbers. They're making up numbers. Who knows, right? So from the very beginning, it makes me feel good too. Like the way NDAO is designed, right? It's designed to incentivize you to get your NDAO off an exchange right away. Because if you buy NDAO on an exchange and your NDAO is sitting in your exchange account, you're not earning EAI. You're not getting any yields. The only way
Hmm.
you get yields is if you withdraw your NDAO from an exchange into your wallet, and then you start earning yields. Then you can earn even more if you decide to lock your account, to lock your account for a period of time. And so, that is, that makes me, it makes all of us feel really good, working on the project, that like we're incentivizing people to get their NDAO off of exchanges so that, they never have to experience something like what happened with FTX, where people had
Hmm.
all their crypto just gone, on FTX. So, everything about NDAO has always been about this self-sovereign, um, solution to things. And the challenge is really, I think, is education. And that's why it's so important, things like the Enlighten program, spreading information about NDAO, educating people about NDAO. That's why I think, like, the NDAO affiliate program too is extremely important, because at the core of it, it's really about teaching people about how NDAO works. And at the end of the day, if what they learn is, oh, I need to get my NDAO and all my cryptocurrencies into self-sovereign wallets, and
Hmm.
we provide that for them.
Yeah, yeah, I see. Um, so you talk about teaching people, but we supposed to teach people. Like, are the projects supposed to do that? Is the government supposed to do that? And that's a little bit early, maybe, to teach people. Or how do you think that would be possible to educate people, like a vast majority of people?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I don't think the centralized entities, centralized organizations, centralized things like centralized
Hmm.
banks, like, and centralized exchanges really have no incentive to teach people that they should take their assets out of them,
Yeah,
right? It's in
yeah,
their best
sure.
interest to keep all their assets. Yeah, don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you
why.
you bought your stuff on FTX. Yeah, we'll hold it for you.
Mm.
We'll
Yeah,
keep it. They're not. Well, it's in their. It's, they're if they're thinking, um, if they're thinking about just making money, they're not going to educate people on the importance of self
sure.
sovereignty, because it's not in their best interest. It's not in the best interest of centralized organizations to teach people about the power of self sovereignty,
Mm.
right? So I think, um, and also, like, with government, unfortunately, I think government's focus is not really about making money, but it's about, having, being aware of everything that's going on and having control over things. Government's all
Yeah.
about fundamentally control, for good or bad, right? There's good kinds of control, there's bad kinds of control, but at the end of the day, it's all about control. And the way you control things is you control them by having them be centralized, right? Because once things are decentralized and self-sovereign, you lose the ability for a single entity to control things, right? The government, could the government could go after your, Bitcoin held in some centralized exchange, they can't go after your Bitcoin that's held in a self-sovereign wallet where you're the only one with the keys. And
Mhm.
that's true for NDAO as well, right? So, and when I use the term government too, the thing to remember is that it's not just about, most of us live in environments where governments are pretty benign, in the West, right? And in Europe
Yeah.
too, Western Europe. And, but a lot of people have and do live in countries where governments can go really bad really fast, and governments can do really terrible things
Yeah.
to their citizens. And so the idea of like protecting yourself from any government that goes bad is sometimes, it's hard for people living in the US or the Western world to kind of get their heads around it. But most of the people on the planet are like, yeah, we know what you're talking about. Things can go real bad
Yeah.
real fast. So again, education, coming back to your question, I think the key
Mhm.
to education is to get people. It's got to be a ground up thing, a grassroots thing. It has to be people sharing their experiences, like on YouTube, on social media, and really just creating content, like like videos and
Yeah.
podcasts and all kinds of stuff. But it has to be the people sharing their knowledge. So once somebody realizes, wow, this is a really powerful tool, I think it's everyone's responsibility to do as much as they can to share that worldview, right? Because that will help more. You're at the end of the day, you want to help more people avoid bad things that can
Mhm.
happen in their lives. And if you can help people understand how money works and how money is kind of broken right now, and what the risks are with trusting third parties and centralized sources of things, then you can teach them, like, and this is what things like cryptocurrency and things like NDAO, this is the problem that it solves, and here's how it works. And then it's a process, but again, I think the challenge is, to be honest, a lot, if you're a centralized organization, you really have no incentive to want to have people look for a decentralized solution. It's a
Yeah.
little. I think some are doing. I don't want to paint them all with a negative light. It's or a bad brush or whatever. Um, for example, I think Binance is actually doing a lot of really good things in terms of trying to, they're a centralized exchange, but a lot of what they've been doing with BNB Smart Chain, Binance Smart Chain, and all that stuff over the years, they're looking to facilitate decentralization and decentralized exchanges like dexes. They're trying to build out
Mhm.
dexes while at the same time they have a centralized exchange. So I think some centralized crypto exchanges, in particular like Binance, will be good at kind of uh, morphing their business model over time, so that suddenly, like, they are somehow still, they're still able to exist as a viable business without having centralized, control over everything. I
Mhm.
think smart companies will be able to do that. It's very tricky though. It's very difficult, and it requires a long planning for all of this. But all of that said, I think the key around NDAO is that um, it's been designed for this completely self-sovereign uh, perspective from the very beginning, and we just keep doing more and more over time to increase the uh, you know it's already decentralized, but there's always more that you can do. There's always more that you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. I think that humans have power to adapt, but they have to experience something like bad to improve and be informed because of the past. So to be educated, what could be the twist? What could be the event that make people more informed about self-sovereignty? And sadly, do we have to face a big collapse of the actual financial system to improve, to understand, and to be more careful about our finance? I don't
Yeah,
know. Maybe the future
I
will
think
tell
that's
us.
a good point. I think that's a good point. I think um, you never want to wish what happened with
Yeah,
FTX to
of
happen,
course.
because so many people were devastated
Yeah,
financially and their lives were destroyed.
mhm,
But at the same time, you have to look at what is the good that's coming out of something like FTX
exactly.
happening. And it's
Mhm,
an increase in awareness of, wow, let's stop recreating the centralized banking system in crypto, right? Because that's the end of the day, that's the problem that, in my mind, the problem that the human race has had forever and will continue to have, is that, and this goes back to my neurology days, right, of
Mm-hmm.
understanding how the mind works. And the mind is a pattern matching
Exactly.
superhero, right? It's like the mind is so good at matching patterns, visual, auditory, all kinds of patterns. And so the challenge, though, is that means whenever you see something new, the first thing your brain does is it goes, okay, what does this remind me of that I already know about? And then it goes, oh, it reminds me of this thing. Okay, I'm going to treat this new thing like this
Mm-hmm.
old thing. So the brain's just pattern matching. That's what pattern matching is. The problem is, and that's that's why we keep recreating bad things whenever new technologies come out. So like, cryptocurrency comes out and people recreate the existing banking system of centralization,
Mm-hmm.
of assets. And it's like, why did we do that? Like, why did we do that? It's crypto at its core. That Bitcoin's original vision, it's all about decentralization.
Yeah.
But why did we recreate centralized things? And it's like, well, because we see something, we got a new tool, and we just recreate the old things. We've always done it, always done it. The other big challenge is really the you know the whole solving the problem of like getting fiat on and off ramps, like getting
Mm-hmm.
going from fiat based government based cash into crypto and out of crypto, right? And the thing is, that means when you start involving fiat, you're involving the centralized existing banking system, right? So the future of crypto is trying to figure out this balance between wanting to do things that are completely digital assets, completely decentralized, and okay, but how do we go back and forth between cash? Like how do we get out, exit to cash, and then enter into crypto and so forth. My one vision that I like to dream about is like in the future, like maybe cash becomes kind of irrelevant. Maybe people never exit crypto. Maybe when crypto becomes not just a store of
Yeah.
value
Mm-hmm.
and a medium of exchange, but also a unit of account where people stop asking like what is one NDAU worth? They go, oh, no, NDAU is one NDAU. Things are priced in NDAU in certain markets.
Yeah.
Maybe it's priced in what is NDAU worth compared to Bitcoin, but at no point does anyone ever say what is this worth in cash, because
Yeah.
people are just using crypto. That's way out there. But I think coming back to the original point, I think it's people have to see firsthand really how badly things can fail before they
Yeah.
truly learn and take to heart that they should do something about it. And I just hope that everybody who um, sees what happens with FTX, who just takes it to heart and realizes it's not a failure of crypto, it's a failure of the centralized banking system. We should never try and recreate these bad centralized systems that require trust. That what we need to do in the future is figure out more decentralized solutions to some of these exchange issues, to
Mm-hmm.
building current cryptocurrency exchanges, and educating people on the value of holding digital assets in a truly self-sovereign way. Um, like hold, and if you want to earn things like yields and so forth, like look at self-sovereign solutions like Enda, where you don't have to be giving your crypto to somebody else to let them grow it for you, because
Yeah.
we all know how that turned out with FTX.
Really, yeah. Okay. Okay. This was very interesting. Let's go back to NDAO. How do you see the future of NDAO as the VP of operations? Like, what's the next big step for the NDAO project that you have in mind? Can you explain a bit to us?
So I shared, that's if people ask for like one place to go to learn about what did we
Hmm.
do in 2022 and what are we
Yeah.
looking at moving forward into 2023. That article is a very good overview. Again, I think one of the goals that one of the big lifts that we're doing right now is upgrading the Tendermint consensus mechanism in the blockchain. So we use Tendermint from the very beginning as NDAO's consensus mechanism. And so that
Hmm.
means updating the code base, and also and all the node software. And so that's a big upgrade that we're working on right now, which will basically make its infrastructure stability. It's like making scalability. Like you mentioned,
Oh,
how do you
yeah.
make
Hmm.
things grow? How do you make them more stable? And so it's very, very important. So the upgrading to uh, uh, the latest and greatest version of Tendermint is a huge thing. We're also working on wrapping up, no pun intended, but wrapping up our wrapped version of NDAO on Polygon chain. including
Oh,
an
nice.
NDAO bridge that'll allow swapping back and forth. So because we want to have more, we want NDAO to be one of the financial options, one of the
Hmm.
digital asset options in the whole decentralized uh, finance space, right? Because
Hmm.
DeFi is fascinating, but it's also a laboratory. People are making new financial instruments based on all these different DeFi tools and tokens that exist on Ethereum virtual machine compliant chains. And so we want NDAO is its own unique chain based on Tendermint, but we want to have a really Ethereum virtual machine compatible wrapped version of it, and we like Polygon a lot too because the fees are a lot lower on all that.
Yeah, of course.
So that's really, those are big things. And the other big thing is around your talking about education is really we launched last month the NDAO affiliate program, and that's really
Hmm.
that's a marketing focused project to increase global awareness of NDAO. Right. So we have
Yeah.
the wonderful Enlighten program, which is a great way for people to be, people can earn NDAO rewards by creating content around, educating people around NDAO. The
Hmm.
NDAO affiliate program is also about increasing global awareness at the same time driving more organic demand for NDAO on exchanges, right? Just making people more interested in it and encouraging them, if they want to, if to buy and how to do that, helping them understand how do I get NDAO, how do I buy NDAO on KuCoin.
Hmm.
So the NDAO affiliate program, and anyone can become an affiliate. You're not earning NDAO rewards, you're earning cash rewards based on how much NDAO people actually buy on exchanges. That's the metric, right? It's very clear.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so what we really want to do is just get more, so we're educating people on how to buy cryptocurrency. We're rewarding people for educating people about NDAO, and we're also at the same time just increasing the content that's out there about NDAO. I mean, like the Enlighten program has been insanely popular. I mean, there are literally hundreds of thousands of videos out there on YouTube about NDAO, and there's just so much content out there about NDAO. If you just go to Google and you just search for NDAO, it's just like boom, amazing what's out there. It's great. Video, tweets, you know, blog posts, everything is out there. And so again, the affiliate program, we've only been out the gate for a month, but I encourage everyone to you know look at the NDAO affiliate program, and doesn't cost you anything to sign up. The same way it doesn't
Yeah,
cost
of
you anything
course.
to participate
Hmm.
in the Enlighten program. But now people have two options. You can be working to increase global awareness of NDAO and be earning NDAO rewards, and you could be also earning cash rewards, by doing affiliate marketing um, in the affiliate program. So and that's a really important thing too. And you asked a good question earlier when you're asking like what makes a project successful. What makes a cryptocurrency successful. And I think, like in the very early days, like with Bitcoin, it spread virally without any really focus on marketing or awareness, right? It was just kind of like
Yeah.
people who knew each other and got into it and so forth. The thing is now there's something like 4,000 different cryptocurrencies out there. I can't remember the last time I checked, like CoinMarketCap or Nomics or CoinGecko. But there's like 3 to 4,000 different
Yeah.
cryptocurrencies out there. Um, and then if you look at like the market cap, I think Endo's like in the top 200, right? Endo's in the top 200 of the market cap. And like, how do people know which, it's like kind of overwhelming to people. It's like, oh, I could just kind of spend all day going through exploring all of these on my own. And some people do that, and that's great. But I think like if you really want to succeed, you have to look at ways to help people learn about you, and not just advertising. It's not just, and when I use the term marketing, it's about education. It's like teaching
Hmm.
people like, hey, this is what's wrong with money today. This is how NDAO fixes these particular things that are wrong with money today. And then here's how to use it. And then let people make the decision on their own, but they can make an educated decision. So I think, a big part of being a successful crypto today is really following what NDAO is focusing on doing is it's design, technically developing things to make it work better, scalable, even more decentralized. It's already decentralized, making it even more decentralized and so forth. And at the same time, focusing on education and outreach and finding ways to encourage and reward people for helping spread global awareness around it, because there are just so many cryptocurrencies out there, and
Yeah.
it's just it's a whole forest, but
Yeah. We
um,
could be lost very, very easy.
yeah, and it's
Okay.
but again, it comes down to education, and I think the other thing too is, we have we're going to be doing additional work on the NDAO NFT forge. We haven't forgotten about
Mhm.
that. We've been, always adjusting our priorities, but that's a priority too moving forward in
Mhm.
2023 is um, working more on that, because we think ultimately, um, and I believe personally too, like NFTs are, the the crazy using them as purely speculative assets is, that kind of ship has sailed a little bit. People are starting to realize, well, that was kind of crazy the past couple of years. These
Yeah.
NFTs just being sold as cartoon pictures, but it really is about utility. NFTs as utilities. NFTs are functioning as tokens that have certain, like membership tokens, give you the ability to do certain things. Like, you log into a website, you can prove using Wallet Connect, hey, I hold this amount of NDAO, plus I also hold
Yeah.
this particular NFT, and that gives me certain level of access or something. But using them as authentication tokens to allow you to have a decentralized identity, right? Because you can hold a collection of NFTs the same way you can hold a collection of, like, membership cards in your wallet, and that's your identity. And if you
Yeah.
have a self-sovereign identity and self-sovereign money at the same time, like, that's then you've won. You don't have to trust a centralized you don't have to trust centralized entities with your personally identifiable information. You don't have to worry about, like, oh, another website was hacked and all my information that they have on me is now floating around the internet, my address, my phone number, my credit cards. If you can get rid of all that and have digital assets held self-sovereign, then you can have NFTs being used as membership tokens to help prove who you are, your identity. Then that's the ultimate goal. So, though all of
Yeah.
those things are, again, 2022 is the year of centralized failure, and
Yeah.
I think 2023 is the year everyone's going to go, okay, yeah, let's not do that again. And I think NDAO, with in particular with what happened in 2022 as well, the number of wallet accounts grew by 40%. You know, so
Yeah.
a lot of
Great.
growth around NDAO in terms of people holding NDAO,
Yeah.
a lot more people running validator nodes to increase reliability and decentralization, right? Because
Mhm.
it's third parties running. More people run validator nodes than Onero. Most of the network is being run by other um, by third parties, which is the way it should be, decentralized, right?
Yeah.
And
Of course.
NDAO validator node operators earned like 40,000 NDAO. That's you can do the math, whatever the current market price is, but there's a lot of good stuff happened in 2022 with NDAO, a lot of building, and I think what we're going to see in 2023 is the positive effects of those things that we've built, and again, our focus, I mean Onero, right? Onero's focus on things like the affiliate program. And the last thing I'll say too is that it's you know NDAO is like Bitcoin in terms of, like, when you use the term NDAO, think, does the word Bitcoin in there make sense? So, like, Bitcoin is a decentralized project. There's no head of Bitcoin. There's no,
Yeah.
who's
Of
the
course.
CEO of Bitcoin? Hello, I want to talk to the CEO of Bitcoin. I lost my
That is
Bitcoin. Can you
recommend.
get it back for me? Right.
Yeah.
The same with NDAO. There's no CEO of NDAO. There's no,
Mhm.
there is, NDAO is the project. Onero is one of the organizations we call the NDAO Collective. NDAO, Onero is one of the companies, the primary company that built the original code for NDAO, right? But all this stuff is open source. Someone, Onero runs the NDAO blockchain explorer, right? A website.
Mhm.
Someone could go to GitHub and clone it and run their own explorer with a different UI, whatever you want to do, right? People want to change how NDAO works. If you hold NDAO, then you could go into the BPC DAO and submit a proposal on, like, I think NDAO should do this. Okay. And if if everything follows through and it's voted in, then uh then the Blockchain Policy Council basically, the way it's designed is, Onero will do what the Blockchain Policy Council says should be done. And who is the Blockchain Policy Council? It's everyone who holds NDAO,
Yeah.
right? So it's the DAO. The Blockchain Policy Council is the
Mm.
DAO, and the DAO is everyone who holds NDAO with a weighted voting system, based on how long you've been holding NDAO and how much you hold. And so at the end of the day, um, when I say we, most of the time I mean we, the collective we, as in we, everyone in the NDAO collective, which is Onero, which is every NDAO holder, which is all of the people who designed NDAO in the beginning, which is anyone who's involved in the Enlighten program. We're all part of, NDAO the same way everyone, in the Bitcoin community is part of the Bitcoin community. And so I think we, as in terms of the NDAO collective, it's going to be a really good 2023, and a lot of the lessons that other people learned in 2022, I think, will help them start to really understand the benefits of self-sovereign solutions
Yeah.
like NDAO, and how it'll help them avoid ever having anything like centralized failure of an exchange like FTX ever happen to them in the future.
Yeah, indeed. I think people will be more and more informed over the years. So yeah, of course. Okay, nice. It's great. And last and big question, like sound like a bit of a job interview, but where do you see NDAO in 5 years and 10 years? Where do you see NDAO? What's your opinion about that? Have you already think about it?
Yeah, well, I have. I mean, it's really about just getting people aware of it. I see what we've done with NDAO, and the NDAO collective, what we've all done with NDAO, is we have
Yeah.
this amazing thing, like, that solves so many problems, and it's just having more people become aware of it. I mean, yes, there's going to be technical adaptations, and there's going to be, in 5 years, there's going to be something completely new. The same way 10 years ago, or 8 years ago, no one knew what DeFi was.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's going to be something completely new. So the trick, all I know is in the future, at least with Onero's role, which is my focus, working at Onero, our engineering focused company, will be focused on making sure we're coming up with new code that adapts to the way the world has changed, so that NDAO, the way NDAO works changes, and at the same time helping to facilitate the global awareness of it. So I think um, it's so hard to, it's so hard to. The challenge about the future is that you don't know what you don't know, right? And there's always something that comes out of left field that no one expects. No one
Yeah.
expected NFTs to be what they are. No one expected, what happened with that whole, collectibles, speculative assets, that whole space. The trick was that the projects that succeeded were the ones who were like kind of, who were already sort of half in that space, and then adapted and, oh, there's an opportunity. We're gonna take advantage of that. And so I
Mhm.
think, but I do, at the highest level though, I think we're going to see more DeFi stuff. We're going to see more stuff happening in DeFi that is not just experimental, but like really kind of ready for prime time, like the average person. Because right now,
Yeah.
most of what happens in DeFi are just people who are DeFi nerds playing around, borrowing from here to lend to here and then back and forth. And it's really, it's a laboratory. It's a laboratory, which means also in a laboratory, like, things don't work sometimes. They catch on fire, they explode. It's like, whoops, put on the safety goggles. It's a lab. That's what happens with DeFi. You always hear about things kind of going wrong in DeFi. I think what we're going to see moving forward is this idea of, decentralized finance, and not just Ethereum virtual machine based, but, other types of decentralized finance systems, things like and systems like NDAO, where you have, these self-sovereign staking, or self-sovereign yields, and you have a form of staking. It's not really staking the way other staking people use the term staking, because language is sometimes difficult in this space,
Mhm.
right? Because two people use the same word, but it means different things to different people.
Yeah.
But really, the idea of self-sovereign yields, that's in a decentralized way, that is a form of decentralized finance. And how all these things intersect, I think that's in the future, what we're going to see is more mature decentralized financial tools available to average people. right? So that you don't have to be a crypto nerd to get it. You don't have to, read a book to understand how it all works.
Yeah.
But the challenge there is really awareness. Was really, again, it's education, and I think that is the biggest thing moving forward is really raising awareness of cryptocurrencies in general, raising awareness of what NDAO's place is in that ecosystem, and realizing that it is an ecosystem. I am not a one coiner, right? I am not a Bitcoin maximalist. I believe the same way that in nature you have ecosystems with different species all doing unique things. There are different cryptocurrencies that are really good for certain things. Something like Bitcoin may be good as a global reserve currency. Something like Ethereum might be really good as a world computer platform with smart contracts. Something like NDAO fills the ecological niche of long-term store of value and sustainable staking yields,
Hmm.
self-sovereign yields, right? Um, Other cryptocurrencies do different things. There's in the same way, like in nature, you know, a lot of the species die out because they don't really do their thing really well. They don't, it's like, oh, that one went extinct because it didn't really adapt over time, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the same thing is going to happen in the future too. You
Hmm.
keep an eye on. I always tell people, think about if you're looking at a cryptocurrency, think about, does it have a very clear, is it solving a very specific problem that exists? And I can say, NDAO does solve a very specific series of problems that exist in digital assets very clearly.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, great. It's poised to be successful and thrive in an ecosystem of other things that do other, Monero is all about privacy and whatever, all these different um, product market fits, they call them in the product world. So I think in 5 years, 10 years out, I think it's really just about the most exciting thing will be uh, how I feel, over time, people will realize more and more self-sovereignty is so important
Hmm.
because I'll be honest, I think the failure of FTX, like there's this, it's not going to end with that. And there's always going to be some other
Yeah.
centralized failure story around the corner that we don't know about, And I think we're just going to probably see more, we'll see more centralized failure, which will drive even more interest in self-sovereignty
Yeah.
and again, the big exciting thing for me is like 10 years in the future, there'll be technologies we haven't even thought about today. But as long as the NDAO collective is continually adaptive, like as long as NDAO itself is adaptive and the collective of people working on NDAO is thinking adaptively, then it's just going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Because
Great.
we'll have features of NDAO we haven't even thought of in the future
Yeah.
because they've evolved based on to take advantage of what's happening in the world. We didn't even Wallet Connect, like, is one of the things I'm so excited about this past year. And when we were inventing NDAO, there was no such thing as Wallet Connect. There was no DeFi. There was no DAOs. No one was even thinking about that
Yeah.
stuff. And yet, this is now one of the things I'm most excited about. But what's coming around the corner is always, um, the trick is to be ready for it and to just run with it as soon as you can.
Yeah, over the years, it will be more challenges, and DAO will keep adaptate to these challenges. So yeah, I think it will be very exciting. Okay, nice. So we covered many subjects about NDAO, about finance in general, and that was a really interesting AMA. Thank you for everything. It was a great pleasure having you, John, for this occasion. As usual, all the links will be below the video if you want to check it out, more about NDAO, the white paper, if you want to know more information in general about NDAO. Thanks, John, for your time, and see you soon in another video.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for this opportunity. This was a lot of fun. You asked really good questions.